We haven't heard from him in weeks. The key takeaways from Governor Doug Ducey's first news conference since October.
Plus, rising COVID-19 cases. We talked to the experts about whether a lockdown could happen here in Arizona.
And later this half hour on Break It Down, what biases are attached to people's hair?
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Stephanie Rosales.
And I'm Sean Rice. Thank you for joining us. COVID-19 numbers here in Arizona aren't looking good, with the cases on the rise. This morning, the state reported 3,206 new coronavirus cases. That brings the total number of coronavirus cases in Arizona to more than 283,000. Also today, 53 new deaths were reported, bringing the state's total fatalities to more than 6,300.
The state's positivity rate is 9.7%. These numbers and the looming Thanksgiving holiday have many leaders concerned. Just hours ago, Governor Doug Ducey addressed how the state is handling the pandemic. Taylor Tassler-Oatley tells us what he had to say. Taylor?
Governor Doug Ducey held a press conference today to address the rise of COVID-19 cases here in Arizona. This is the first time we've heard from the governor since his last press conference on October 29th. A recent report from the White House obtained by ABC News states that Arizona is experiencing a significant resurgence of COVID with rising test positivity, cases, and hospitalizations, especially in those over 40. There is a significant increase in the counties in the red zone. The White House is recommending that the state increase mitigation efforts with proactive weekly testing, wearing masks in public, and reducing the capacity limit for indoor spaces. And the governor made it clear wearing masks is necessary.
Some straight talk. There are two extreme and distinct camps out there. One side wants to lock everything down. The other side thinks it's all a hoax. Both are loud and vocal. Most of the public isn't part of either camp. And by the way, neither am I.
The governor also outlined efforts to put testing centers at all three major airports in Arizona. He also outlined an emergency measure to enforce mask policies on school grounds and buses. He also says he is allocating $25 million for hospitals to make sure they are staffed properly and to reward employees. In the broadcast center, Taylor Tassler-Oatley, Cronkite News.
The Arizona Department of Health Services is on high alert right now, as COVID-19 cases are trending in a way that threatens another lockdown. Jake Holter spoke with one expert about what this means for the state.
With Thanksgiving just over a week away, this new COVID-19 spike presents a host of new challenges for Arizona, according to the former director of the Arizona Department of Health Services, Will Humble.
The trajectory that we're on is already pretty bad and already looks much like what we experienced in June, which led to the hospital crisis in July. What we didn't have this summer was something like, Thanksgiving in the middle of it all. And I think it's that combination of both the trajectory that we're currently on, along with this new event, which is a big, big deal, and where there will be a fair amount of social mixing, throwing that also at the trajectory.
What has health officials concerned is that hospitalization spikes tend to occur about 2 weeks after the increase in cases, and the deaths tend to follow in the weeks after that. Canada had its Thanksgiving last month, and in the weeks that followed, the country has seen an explosion in COVID-19 cases, reporting over double the number of daily cases that they saw in their coronavirus spike in the spring. Humble is concerned for what that could mean here in Arizona.
I think it's a pretty dangerous combination, and I don't know what you can do about it. I mean, I've thrown out these ideas about, doing better compliance and enforcement at the bars, restaurants, and nightclubs, and statewide face covering mandates. But if people behave irresponsibly at Thanksgiving, and if there's a lot of social mixing, there's no policy intervention for that.
Humble said that this may very well lead to a hospital crisis in December. Despite this, Humble said he does not expect another stay-at-home order, the likes of which we saw in April, but instead sees another shutdown of bars and nightclubs and further reduced capacity in restaurants like was seen in the summer months. Jonathan Nez, president of the Navajo Nation, spoke on the more drastic measures he is taking to combat the virus.
We are now in a three-week curfew lockdown. That's because we have the ability to govern ourselves and to make decisions for the best interest of our people. And of course, yeah, it might be strict and might be tough, but we don't have people out there protesting on the streets because they know that these types of stringent public health emergency orders do work to bring the numbers down.
Banner Health said in a press release that they expect to need double the amount of nurses than needed during a typical winter as they brace for the next big wave of COVID-19 hospitalizations. In the studio, Jay Coulter, Cronkite News.
At the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, Arizona Governor Doug Ducey would meet with city mayors regularly to coordinate their mitigation efforts. However, in the last few weeks, these meetings haven't happened, and the mayor of the state's largest city spoke out, calling for a new mask mandate.
The science has shown us that masks work. Until we have a vaccine, masks are the single best defense against the virus. While Phoenix has had a mask requirement in place since June, there is still no statewide mandate. We can stick to this piecemeal approach, or we can do it right. Today, I called on Governor Doug Ducey to issue a statewide mask order to help prevent new infections and to keep that order in place until we have wide distribution of a vaccine, more effective treatments, or both.
Phoenix's citywide mask mandate was issued on June 19th after Governor Doug Ducey would not order a statewide mandate. Instead, he gave authority to individual cities to order face-covering guidelines. Mayor Gallego told KTAR she is, quote, ready and willing to meet with Governor Ducey again on a regular basis.
The Navajo Nation has begun a 3-week lockdown after officials found COVID-19 was spreading uncontrollably through 34 communities. This comes after a spring when the Navajo Nation had the highest rate of coronavirus cases in the U.S., surpassing even New York City. CNN's Martin Savage reports.
Winter-like cold has returned to the Navajo Nation. So has coronavirus. Last spring, COVID-19 devastated the sprawling 27,000 square mile Navajo reservation that stretches across Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. In May, per capita Navajo infection rates surpassed New York and New Jersey. Dee Dixon's younger sister among those infected.
She went in to get tested, and she said she tested positive.
Just 2 weeks later, Dixon listened helplessly over the phone as her sister's COVID battle ended in a distant hospital room.
I was talking to her and I was telling her, Sissy, you can't go, you have to come home to us. By 5:45, you just hear that tone of her heart stopping, and the doctor came on the phone and she said she was gone.
Now COVID's back. Navajo health officials warn of the virus's uncontrolled spread in 34 communities and fear an outbreak as bad as spring or worse.
The cases just have been increasing. There's no plateau, there's no flattening.
How many ICU beds do you have here?
We have 14 in Navajo area. Here at this site, we have 6.
Last time, the Navajo sent many of their cases off reservation to larger hospitals. In New Mexico and Arizona, health volunteers poured in. That's not likely this time. Hospitals nationwide are struggling to find beds for their own critical cases. So the Navajo are preparing to fight alone, locking down the entire Navajo Nation for 3 weeks.
The voice of the Navajo Nation.
Announcing the news on Navajo Radio.
Good morning. I hope everybody woke up feeling good, feeling that they want to stay home and take care of themselves.
Under the order, people can only leave their homes for emergencies or essentials. Government offices and businesses must close. Learning is online. Gas stations and grocery stores can open, but under limited hours and capacity, using strict sanitizing procedures. Checkpoints like this one are designed to limit off-nation travel. Meanwhile, non-residents and tourists can pass through. They just can't stop. Face masks, already mandated, now are encouraged to be worn indoors with family.
And we're like an island, the Navajo Nation. So of course, if you have record-breaking numbers all around us, it will come in to that nation or that area. And that's what's happening today.
Aggressive screening continues. Officials say more than 50% of the nation's residents already have been tested, and more than 250 contact tracers work to isolate transmission. Health officials have identified sites to quarantine thousands and to place hundreds of hospital beds. Native utility crews race to bring electricity to some of the roughly 30% of Navajo who live without it, saving them searching for firewood or fuel. And running water to the about 40% who have none to make hand washing and hygiene easier.
With this little help, it will greatly improve their lives.
So far, the strict lockdown has received little pushback, perhaps because even those who have already endured agonizing loss realize there is still so much more the Navajo could lose.
To keep us safe, to keep us alive. That's what the lockdown is for.
Whether learning remotely or going to classes in person, many college students flocked back to campus for the fall semester. Now it's time for them to return home during the worst coronavirus spike this country has seen. This has some colleges issuing guidelines for those going home for the holidays. The University of Arizona, for example, is offering COVID tests to students and staff from November 9th to November 25th. And after Thanksgiving, classes will transition fully online until the spring semester.
Mandatory testing on return to campus for the spring term.
The university is also canceling in-person classes after Thanksgiving due to the fall surge. Some other schools even plan to have fall semester end early to avoid the back and forth travel. And with many new advisories and restrictions in place, officials are telling travelers to look up any new guidelines or procedures before they go.
With the COVID vaccine in its final stages, many are wondering if they'll be required to get it once it's approved. Well, according to a Scottsdale attorney, companies can make it mandatory. So if an employee refuses to receive the vaccine, the employer could be in a position to fire them. However, people who have a religious objection or underlying health conditions could receive an accommodation.
Coming up on Cronkite News, GOP leaders in Arizona are fighting to delay the confirmation of election results in Maricopa County.
And with the COVID-19 cases spiking across the country, one company is giving families something to be thankful for this holiday season.
Ready to watch the best of PBS anytime, anywhere, on nearly any device? It's easy with the free PBS Video app. Simply download the PBS Video app on your mobile or streaming device. Now you can watch the latest PBS episodes or catch up on the shows you missed. And when you support your local station, you can get PBS Passport, giving you access to more episodes, more specials, more of what you love. Ready to watch the best of PBS anytime, anywhere, on nearly any device? It's easy with the free PBS Video app. Simply download the PBS Video app on your mobile or streaming device. Now you can watch the latest PBS episodes or catch up on the shows you missed. Discover new favorites from PBS and local content from your PBS station.
Hey, I'm Rick Steves. You know, I don't go anywhere without my passport. And now, thanks to PBS Passport, you can travel with me and watch all 10 seasons of Rick Steves Europe and all my travel specials. This exclusive streaming service is just for our members. Not only can you see all my shows, but you can see thousands of hours of your favorite public television shows. Become a member today and get your passport.
Every day I wake up, my first thought is, how can I serve this community?
The biggest hurdle was not taking PTSD personally.
Would you welcome, please, the amazing.
Everybody that watches this, they say that I am the greatest that they've ever seen.
Here at Cronkite News, we have producers who craft shows that make an impact on our community. Our broadcasts allow students to be involved in all levels of production, from producing to directing. We are guided by highly respected professionals who mentor the journalists of tomorrow. From technical directing to teleprompting and beyond, our production crew works tirelessly to produce meaningful and award-winning shows. We are Cronkite News on Arizona PBS.
President Donald Trump has fired the nation's top election security official. Christopher Krebs refuted the president's unsubstantiated claims of election fraud and vouched for the integrity of the vote. Krebs issued statements and posted on social media saying, quote, "The November 3rd election was the most secure in American history." After his firing, he tweeted, "Honored to serve. We did it right."
Meanwhile, Republicans in Arizona have asked a judge to bar the certification of the November 3rd election results in Maricopa County. The GOP wants the court to first issue a decision about the party's lawsuit seeking a new hand count of a sampling of ballots. Republicans made the request Monday night after finding out the election results would be confirmed either tomorrow or Friday. GOP Chairwoman Dr. Kelly Ward shared a video update this morning and says she is confident Trump will prevail here in Arizona.
I believe, I still do now, just as I did on election night, that this election will ultimately be decided in favor of President Donald J. Trump. Our 11 electoral votes will go to him, and we should not and will not ever allow mistakes, glitches, and other irregularities to become a partisan issue. We want full transparency and election integrity. That's it.
Clint Hickman, a Republican who is the chairman of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, sent a letter to voters yesterday. In it, he says there's no evidence of fraud, misconduct, or malfunction in the general election. Officials face a November 23rd deadline to certify the election results.
Finally tonight, Thanksgiving over the computer? That's what the CDC is recommending instead of big family gatherings this year to help stop the spread of COVID-19. That's why Zoom is lending a hand this holiday season. The company is lifting its 40-minute time limit on all calls on Thanksgiving Day so that families can celebrate via computer screens. Zoom also added two-factor authentication and tools that lets you block and report anyone who disrupts your Thanksgiving festivities.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.